tomorrow we're going to be smoking some pulled pork. Looking forward to doing this. My family really likes smoked pulled pork. But I'm going to set it up, just going to set it up to charcoal the night before. That's what we're doing now. To you, it'll look seamless. But we set it up the night before. That way, when we wake up kind of early in the morning, we can just come out here, light the coals, and get it started. I don't have to make a whole bunch of noise. Neighbors going to work in the morning and all that kind of stuff. So we're going to set up our grill here. I use the slow and sear. I like the slow and sear. I've tried the minion method. I've tried multiple different types of, this isn't a how to barbecue channel, but we might as well give you some tips and tricks. I've tried a bunch of different ways. What I'd like to have is a new offset smoker. I started with an offset smoker and it just was too small. It wasn't working out. So I smoke on my Kettle and I get really good results from that. I have never had any complaints, and I've fed my pulled pork to a lot of people. So we're going to set this up the night before. So tomorrow, all we got to do is get into it. So I use the slow and sear. I really like the slow and sear. Again, I mentioned I've used the minion method in the past. No, I'm not sponsored by slow and sear, sadly. But using my Kettle, I can get temperatures 250, 275, and they just hang out for hours and hours and hours. And I really don't have too much problems. It has a nice little hot water bath in here to keep things nice and moist. And I haven't had a problem yet. So let's get this thing set up. So for the base coals, I just used Kingsford. This stuff they sell at like Costco for super cheap. And I've never had a problem with it. If I'm cooking something where I really am trying to get the flavor out of the charcoal, I use like Fogo charcoal or not just regular briquettes. I'll use lump. But for my purposes here smoking, it's all going to be, the flavor is going to come from this post oak. So all you got to do in reality with the slow and sear is dump it in. So you don't fill it all the way up. Okay, actually I'm going to take a couple of these out, put them back in the bag. So we're going to set it up just like this, and we're going to put our post oak on the top. That's where you're getting your smoke from. I'm going to hide a tiny little piece of post oak right down there in the bottom. So what's going to happen is tomorrow morning I'm going to come up and light about 8 or 10 coals, get them going so they're great, and pour them right here in this tiny little spot right here, and they're slowly just going to burn over. Okay, we'll set the grate down on it tomorrow morning, and we'll fill it up with water tomorrow morning, and then we'll all be set to go. This is how it all starts. So we took our hot coals. Remember how we set that up there? Technically it was last night, but for you guys it was 2 seconds ago. We took our hot coals, we set it in there, and it's just going to burn slowly across. So now we're going to take our grate, put it on there, and just get the cooker up to temps. You're going to want to kind of let it get going for, it's going to take a good 20 or 30 minutes to really kind of start to get going and get to the temperature that you want it at. And it's okay if this little piece here comes up, which is nice about the slow and sear. Okay, so it's okay if this is resting up. Your pork is going to be over here. So it's as easy as that. Let's get the lid on it, get the smoke rolling. The smoke that you see right there, or that you almost barely don't see, that's what you want it to look like. So that just nice kind of white bluish smoke. While it gets going here, that's going to change color. That's why you want to let it you want to let it run for the next 20 minutes to let everything kind of get to temperature and get smoking. But once that goes away and it turns kind of clear again, you're ready to go. So it's early in the morning. Not super early. I used to wake up at like 4 to start smoking this pork, but I realized I didn't have to do that. I really can smoke it all day today. We can eat it still tonight at around 6 p.m. But as we go throughout the day, I'll tell you some tips and tricks that I've learned as far as how to time these things. So the charcoal's getting started right now, and that's going to take around 45 minutes to an hour to get to get the kettle kind of up to temperature. And so while we're waiting for that to happen, we're going to season the pork. It's been sitting out for a couple of hours. My wife took it out of the refrigerator when she woke up, which is real early. So it's not a couple of hours, but it's been sitting out for about an hour now. So let's cut it open. Let's get it seasoned up and get it ready to put on the grill. All right, so I buy these from just from Costco, to be honest with you, because you know what? They're a good price. They do not have a bone in them. And yes, it is better to have a bone. But you know what? We buy what's kind of available and what we can. And this really does a pretty good job. We're going to pat this dry. There's not a ton of trimming to be done, again, as far as I'm concerned, because I kind of want the fat. I like the fat, as long as it's not super hard and thick. And going to cause me any problems rendering down, which this is not. This amount of fat is not going to cause me a ton of trouble. So I'm going to take the smaller one and use this meat church here. Like I said, we got to have a clean hand. And one of the last videos I make when I made steak, you got to have a clean hand and you got to have a dirty hand, right? So my family really likes honey hog, and they like their pulled pork a little bit on the sweeter side. I'm hoping I have enough of this rub. If not, I got to go down to my local store. I'm lucky. I have a barbecue store. We don't believe in luck. We have one of the best barbecue shops around, called the BBQ HQ. I'll drop a link to their webpage. You can order stuff through them. It happens to be right here in my town. So I go there a lot. I can get lots of rubs, lots of barbecue accessories. They sell barbecues, outdoor products. Don't forget the sides, right? So be generous, get everywhere that you can. Again, the bark's not going to develop a ton inside here. But I put some seasoning inside there. Usually you'll have a bone, and, I'm going to start making bone in, but be generous with your seasonings. Let it sit. It's going to sit for 20 or 30 minutes just before it goes on the grill. This is going to develop a nice, pretty red bark. And this is what I like the best, is just salt and pepper. Now, some guys use like Texas style salt and pepper, which would be 50-50, right? I don't use that much salt. I use like 2/3, kind of 1/3 is pretty close to what the mix is in reality. And I just mix it myself. Make it with 16 mesh ground black pepper and diamond kosher sea salt. And once again, I will leave links to that in the description. So salt it to, and once you've done this a couple times, you really, you'll kind of start learning what you like, you know. Again, use what you like. There's a ton of rubs out there that you can use to make pulled pork. There are a ton of different ways you can do it. I suppose you really could make this and not smoke it. I don't know why. I mean, if you didn't have a smoker, all the smoker's really doing is heating it up, right? So I guess you could make a pulled pork low and slow in the oven. I've never tried it. Maybe we'll try it someday. It's obviously not going to have that smoky flavor, and that's what makes it amazing and delicious. And in my opinion, and in our opinion, my family, our meaning my family. But you know, if you didn't have the option, you could do this in the oven, I suppose. Anybody done it? Have you ever done pulled pork like this in the oven and just set it low and slow for 6 or 8 hours on 250? How did it go? What did you do? How did it come out? Let me know down in the comments, because I'm curious. All right, there you have it. Two beautiful, actually that's a full pork butt is what it is, but two beautiful pieces of pork ready to go on the smoker, and we're going to get that on the smoker in the next 20 or 30 minutes when it gets up to temperature. So we'll see you outside. While we get up to temperature here, I'm going to stick the thermometer. Yes, my kettle has a thermometer there. I don't really trust it. I tend to use the average between this and this, because this is going to sit right at the grill. Now, my smoker is going to be really super full because those pork butts are going to take up a lot of it. And again, I wish I had a bigger one, but that's okay. So I use these ThermoPro. I'll drop a link down in the description. I use these ThermoPro probes. I would love to have some wireless ones, but again, we're not quite there yet. So we use what we have, and I'll put one in each pork butt and one right at the grill. See this color smoke here? We got to get all that out there. And as it starts, that's essentially going to burn off. As soon as this gets to temp here, that'll kind of go away. No, it's not the most optimal, but it works, and it works just fine, and the pork comes out really good. So we're running wide open right now to get things started on this kettle because I've done it a bunch of times. I'm really going to be running with the dampers on the bottom at about half and the dampers on the top at about half, and that gets me to the temperature, right to the temperature that I want to be at. So there's going to be like a thicker side and a thinner side. I put the thicker side towards the fire for obvious reasons. If you need to spin it halfway through, that's fine too. Sometimes I do. I'm not a huge spritzer. I've never been super into kind of the spritzing, but I have some apple juice today, so I probably will do a little bit of spritzing, and that's it. So we're gonna get them on there. We're gonna get the probes in position. And see, again, we need wireless. It would be nice to have wireless, but we don't have wireless, so we do with what we have. And that works for us. Get it deep in kind of the middle there. And our probes will just do the work for us throughout the smoke. Will let us know where we're at, will let us know how things are going, and we will adjust accordingly. There you have it. Keep clean things clean. So I'm not really going to uncover this for the next probably 2 to 3 hours. I will let you know when that happens, but in about 2 to 3 hours, we can start doing a little bit of a spritz. If you have to adjust a little bit here and there, since this is not an offset smoker where I would be adding fire to a firebox on the side, I'm going to adjust the temperatures by the dampers on the top and the bottom. No big deal. And again, the smoke comes out pretty good. Obviously the offset's the premium, the #1, but you can do just as great of a job on a Weber kettle, in my opinion. Nobody that I've fed has complained. See you in a couple hours. All right, there we go. We're humming right along. See that clear blue smoke that you can barely see? That's what you're looking for. That's that tasty smoke that's gonna flavor your meat and where you wanna be at. All right, so we have this nice, pretty blue smoke going on here. By the way, new microphone. This is the very first clip that I'm using this microphone outside. I'm hoping that it's gonna make the audio quality much better for you guys. So we're humming right along here. I'm gonna show you the temperature gauges here in a minute. We're gonna open up. It's been a couple of hours that it's just sitting there. Now I would be spritzing this, but I lost my squeeze bottle, so we're not going to. I don't usually do that with pork anyway. So let's take a look here and see what's kind of happening. So now I have a transponder inside, or not a transponder, but whatever. So the kettle's right at about 284, which is fine. It's going to dip down. The bigger one, this one right here, I'm going to show you what that is right now. Ooh, pretty. Okay, so that one is at 110. This one, which is substantially thinner, smaller, it might be hard to tell from the video, is sitting at 110. This one is sitting at 120, which is going to happen. We got about half our coals. I added another couple of coals and another just chunk of post oak in there to carry us through for the next couple of hours, and she'll just sit, and they'll just sit and continue to get pretty as before we pull it out. Now we're gonna pull them at 170. So I take them off the coals at 170. That's about all the smoke they're gonna get. And I finish it in the oven because it's easy. Stick it in the oven. It's gonna have as much flavor as it's gonna have already. So until then, see you in a couple hours. Okay, so we are getting close. We've been hanging out at about 275 the whole time. I don't know how well you can see those numbers there. And we're both of them are right in the mid 160s. We're going to take them off the smoke or take them off the grill at right around 170. What's more important is that you feel it, your pulled pork, that fat cap on the top. When you stick your finger in or in your, like, it should kind of sink in there. It shouldn't rebound back up. That's how you know they're ready to pull off. So we're going to be getting close here. Again, a few more degrees until we're right at the 170 range. So what we want to do is a couple things. I'm going to wrap it in butcher paper. There's multiple ways to wrap it. You can wrap it in foil. That works great. Butcher paper. If you follow, if you follow Chud's Barbecue, he does this like foil boat method. It works really good for him. But you're going to want to wrap it in something, keep those juices contained, and make we finish the cook getting the pork up to about 205. So we're going to get your butcher paper out. I use these to shred it all up and to transport things after the fact. So, and then to freeze some of it later. We have some containers. So have all that stuff ready. And I also use gloves. This is a magical, I want to say that this is a Jeremy Yoder thing. Jeremy Yoder, the Mad Scientist Barbecue. I'll drop a link to both those guys' channels. If you really are into smoking, specifically in barbecue, they'll help you out. I don't even know what these are called. I call them glove liners. So you get them in like a pack of 12. I'll drop a link. And I wear these underneath these. It makes it so I can handle the pulled pork with my hands and do things and cut and do whatever I need to do. But it protects my hands from the heat. Just gloves don't work for me. I'm not that tough. So you got all that stuff out. I finished this in the oven. You can finish it on the barbecue if you want. This just keeps me from having to maintain temps in the barbecue and use extra charcoal, which I don't really want to do. So it's easier for me to just fire up the oven. You're not losing any taste, by the way. The meat at this point is going to taste like what it's going to taste like. So I'm going to wrap it, stick it in the oven, and it'll finish in the oven. So now's a good time to fire up your oven, get it to about 250, 260, and that's where it's going to ride out the rest until you get it to an internal temperature, the pork, of 205. So let's go get it off the barbecue. All right, it's crazy bright out here. I should be wearing sunglasses, but I'm not. Sorry if you're watching this in the whole rest of the country and you're buried in snow right now. But it's 75, sunny, and really nice. So we're right up to the temps we need to be at. And most importantly, it feels the right way. You're going to have to probably do this a couple times before you know what it feels like. But grab, your turbo temp. I'll drop a link and stick it in there. It should just like go in like butter and take its temp at a few different places. You're looking for right around the 170 mark. But again, the fat on the top should look not burned. But nice color going. This is called bark, right? It's I don't want to touch too much of it. It'll fall off. But nice bark, and it should sink right in. So we're going to take these off, take them inside, wrap them, and they're going to finish up in the oven. All right, so we got them off the barbecue. It's time to wrap. Again, I just want to remind you, these are going to be super hot. They're at 170 degrees, so make sure you have something underneath. I'm not wearing just black gloves here. And really, the wrapping process is pretty easy. We are using butcher paper. It should keep the outside nice and crisp. We're going to wrap it, I would say, just like a present, but it's not like a present. It doesn't really matter how you wrap it, to be honest with you. What matters is that you do wrap it, right? And try to remember which side the top is, the fat side up. So we're gonna set that off to the side, get my second one going here. Now, if you're using two totally different rubs, you wanna keep in mind, I guess you can figure out a way to mark it. I've done this enough times that A, I know what it tastes like, B, I know what the colors look like. So that's not gonna be a problem for me. But if that's something that is gonna be a problem for you, figure out a way to mark it, or just remember, oh, this one goes on the right, this one goes on the left. But we're gonna wrap it up nice and tight. It's all pretty. Stick them in the oven. Another 2 or 3 hours in the oven. They're gonna be ready to take out and pull, and we're gonna get to enjoy. All right, we're at the home stretch. The smaller one has reached 205. That's what we're looking for. We want the pork to reach 205. The smaller one's there. The larger one has about 10 more minutes. So we're gonna take it out. We're gonna take out the smaller one and show you what we do next, because this step is important. You gotta let your proteins rest. You just gotta. So these can rest in a cooler. I wrap them up in a towel and stick them in a cooler in the garage. I've rested them, I've let them sit in there like that for, personally, I've done 6 hours. 6 hours wrapped in a towel in a cooler, and when I took it out, it was still too hot to touch with my bare hands. But what that does is allow the juices to kind of seep back in to itself without just pouring all over. If you start pulling it and cutting it up, whatever your protein is right away, all your juices are just gonna run right back out. So make sure you let it rest for an adequate period of time. It is about 3 o'clock right now, which means it'll rest for another 3 hours. It'll be perfect. We'll pull it at 6 o'clock and eat some delicious meat. We'll see you then. Here's what we're gonna do. So all we gotta do is take it out. I put it into one of these little foil boats. That's what I'm gonna pull it in the first place, and stick it in the, that's it. Okay, wrap it up in your towel. Bob's your uncle. I'm gonna stick that in the garage. We'll put this next one in when it reaches temp, and then I'll show you what it looks like to pull it. All right, we're in the home stretch here, and unfortunately, for some reason, the audio did not record. So I'm gonna do my best to finish this up. There's no reason to ruin this good footage because this is delicious food. We pulled them out of our coolers. They're still at probably about 160, 165, and we're going to take them out of the butcher paper now. So now when I first started doing this, I had these fancy devices I'm about to pull out. See these little bear claw things? I do not use these anymore. I don't like them. I don't like having to clean them. They don't do what I wanted. I used them for the very first time that I ever did a pulled pork. But it's called pulled pork. It should just be able to pull. You should just be able to break it apart with your hands. And I don't mix barbecue sauce in. This Blues Hog is one of the favorites around here for my family. So I'll drop links to those down in the description. But I don't mix it in because we all like different amounts of barbecue sauce, and we all like to make our pulled pork sandwiches a little different. So we just set the barbecue sauces out and then carefully unwrap these. Now remember, they're gonna be warm, so make sure to use something other than just gloves on your hand, unless your hands are super tough. I use those liners and it works perfect because I can use my hands properly and not worry about getting everything all dirty. Now you can save this butcher paper. It's covered in grease. It will light on fire really, really well and easily if you want to use it for, say, a fire starter for camping, or if you're using an offset smoker. This is a perfect thing to use for that. However, I'm not going to do that. I don't need it right now, so I'm just going to go ahead and toss it, making sure to try not to get grease all over the kitchen. Now you'll notice as I start unwrapping this salt and pepper, the salt and pepper is the bigger one here. It's literally just going to start falling apart in my hands as I start manipulating it. So this is one of the reasons I don't use those bear claw things that you saw me using. I just don't find the need for those. I like to pull it. I like to have bigger chunks, littler chunks. I'm not going for super, super fine. And it'll just fall apart right in your hands as I start to pull it here. And I'm gonna show you a little bit of a close-up of that here in just 1 second. But see, look, it's just falling right apart. That is a beautiful shot of a lot of pulled pork. And you really should be able to just pull it. Now you can see, if you look close, the steam coming out of there. It's real super hot. But I'm just gonna pull it apart and we're gonna eat the chunks and the parts that we want. I can't resist here. I'm gonna take a bite and because the cook always gets the first bite. But look how hot that is. And it sat in those coolers resting for about 3 hours. The total time to make this was about 12 hours, from about 6 to 6:30 in the morning until right now when we're about to eat, which is about 6 p.m. at night. And in reality, even though it takes a lot of time, it really is not that hard. And look at the amount of pulled pork that I got here. Now, I'm going to save a lot of this, and I am not a huge fan of leftovers, but my wife is, and we ended up saving a bunch for camping and sticking a bunch in the freezer. And if you stick it in the freezer in these foil pans and some smaller ones,
you can reheat it in the oven for 20 or 30 minutes and it turns out almost as good as when it was fresh. So if you're gonna make some pulled pork, make sure you make a ton of it. Some people like to mix their barbecue sauce in. We don't like to do that here because we all use different barbecue sauces, and we can kind of mix it up in a different bowl if you want, or you can just squeeze it on the top of your sandwich. Of course, King's Hawaiian rolls are the favorite around here. But you'll see it's just falling apart. And that's exactly what it's supposed to do. If you get it up to the right temps and you let it rest long enough, it's going to be nice and juicy. It's going to fall apart in your hand and it's going to make a fantastic sandwich. Now, this is them telling you how much they like it. And to be honest with you, these are the only 4 people that matter, whether my cooking is good or not. And look, lucky for me, they all gave me the thumbs up. The food is really, really good. We're going to get to eat it multiple times over the next couple of weeks. Or if you're feeding a lot of people, a full pork butt is going to work really well because it feeds a ton. So that's it. After a long, hard day of work, smoke them if you got them, friends. Actually, I got this shirt on Amazon. I'll see if I can find a link for you guys. But for those of you who hung with me, this is one of my first full-length cooking videos. I really appreciate that. Thank you so much for hanging in. For those of you who have asked and have supported via Buy Me a Coffee down in the description or my Amazon wish list, it's down there. I want to say thank you to you guys. We're trying to get this channel started, so watching the whole videos, making sure if you're new here that you subscribe and hit that thumbs up, and and then hit those bell notifications. That really helps us get started. If you want to see more content like this, we cook, we clean, we raise daughters, and hopefully we're building them all right. Hey, once again, I want to say thank you to you guys, and I hope that I see you on the next one.